Hey, how's it going everybody? J-Mac here. Today's video is going to be on the revamped zero cooldown Wall of Death build with Firewall for Torment 10 Rifting. And I made a video on this build a few weeks ago, but since then we got a new PTR patch and they buffed the build significantly. Now Firewall is dealing up to 1100% weapon damage, and they added a new affix to Jeremy's Bracers where it buffs Wall of Death's damage by up to 100%. So it's to the point now really where Firewall can just be your only damage dealing ability, does really good AoE clear speed, and it actually, the DOTs, the damage over time effects from Firewall will stack up in one place. So if you put multiple Firewalls in one spot, say on a single target, those damage over times will actually stack up, dealing very significant damage. Now, I've messed around with this build a lot and different variations of it. I think you can just take the Engiom effect, getting that zero cooldown, and build it multiple different ways. I ran a lot with a two-hander like a Furnace or a Sulong's Diviner with an Engiom in the cube and an Avarice Band in the cube as well to get your pickup radius, and that worked very well, and it's something you could definitely run. I've settled on, however, just running Engiom on my character with a Thing of the Deep offhand for your pickup radius, and then you're able to run Furnace and Convention of Elements in the cube instead to maximize your damage. With this build, you should be able to do 2 to 3 minute clears on Torment 10 on average. Every once in a while you get a really bad map or just not a lot of density and it'll go a little bit longer, but I've never had a run be over 4 minutes. So let's get right into it with the abilities. First up, Acid Cloud, Acid Rain. This is mostly here to proc Focus and Restraint so that your Firewalls are dealing maximum damage. But this also gets buffed by 6-piece Helltooth, gets cast by your mimics from the Grim Reaper Voodoo Mask, and has a very nice radius, so it does a ton of damage still. But for the most part, if you have an elite or champion killed for the Engiom buff, you want to be spamming Firewalls over spamming Acid Cloud, Acid Rain. But it still does significant damage, and at times you'll have elite or champion droughts, and you can spam this in the meantime until you kill that elite or champion or goblin. Corpse Spiders, Blazing Spiders. We need some sort of primary skill here to proc the other part of Focus and Restraint. I went with Blazing Spiders. It gives you a little bit of mana back if you're having those champion droughts where you're not just spamming Firewall, which is a 0 mana spell. At those times, you may be casting Acid Rain a little bit more. So I went with Blazing Spiders, although Leaping Spiders is a very good option to make sure that the spiders hit targets to proc that Focus and Restraint. Soul Harvest, Soul to Waste. 15% more intelligence at 5 stacks for damage, along with 25% more movement speed for each enemy harvested, so a static movement speed buff there. Spirit Walk Jaunt. This is really here just for the movement speed, along with Grave Injustice and the Engiom buff. You're going to be able to jaunt constantly. Wall of Death, Firewall. Let's go over what it does. Raise a wall of flame 40 yards wide for 8 seconds that burns enemies who walk through, causing them to take 1100% weapon damage as fire over 4 seconds. And the majority of mobs will die with just that one Firewall. For elites and champions, you may need to cast 2 or 3 in one area to kill them. Horrify Stalker, 20% more movement speed with the Engiom buff as well, and Grave Injustice. You'll be able to get this movement speed just about always. Grave Injustice. Now the biggest reason why I'm running this with Engiom is again for those times where you may not kill an elite or champion for a little bit. Most T10 maps, you're going to have a lot of elites and champions to kill, and it's not going to matter, but sometimes it does, and I think the Grave Injustice along with the Thing of the Deep to buff this effect is quite good in the build. Fierce Loyalty for more movement speed. We're running the Belt of Transcendence, so we get 15 Fetish Sycophants from the belt to proc this Fierce Loyalty. Something that you could do if you wanted to is run either a Gold Wrap or a Witching Hour as your belt for either defense or offense, one of the two. And then you could drop Horrify Stalker for zombie dogs, and then proc your Fierce Loyalty that way if you wanted to. Pierce the Veil for more damage. With spamming Firewall, it's a 0 mana cost spell, so Pierce the Veil really isn't too restrictive as it is in a lot of other builds. Gruesome Feast. When you're killing things that fast on Torment 10 and you're running Thing of the Deep, you're going to have 5 stacks the majority of the time. And then we're also running a 5th passive. Currently I'm running Spirit Vessel. Just on Torment 10 I like the Spirit Vessel if you're not running Gold Wrap. With Gold Wrap you're going to be basically immortal as long as you're moving quick enough and you continue to pick up gold. If you're not running it, Spirit Vessel is quite nice. Otherwise, you could run the brand new Confidence Ritual for 25% more damage when you're within 20 yards of enemies. Next, let's take a look at the gear, and first up we have the Engiom weapon. It doesn't really matter if you have an 8-second Engiom because the cooldown of Firewall is 8 seconds, although the higher the better. If you get an ancient 10-second Engiom, that's fine. but the biggest thing there is just that the Engeom is ancient with the socket. Then we got the Thing of the Deep offhand. You really want to make sure you get Wall of Death damage on this piece. I went with Intelligence, Vitality, Crit Chance, Wall of Death damage. As far as Helltooth goes, and the 6-piece bonus is really what's going to be making your Firewall deal so much damage. Your Firewall will be buffed by 900% with that 6-piece. As far as the individual pieces though, on the boots we have Intelligence, Vitality, Armor, Acid Cloud damage. Helltooth leg guards, Int, Vit, Armor, 2 sockets. Chest piece, Intelligence, Vitality, Wall of Death damage is very important here. Helltooth mask, Intelligence, Vitality, Crit Chance, and a socket. I had a life percentage gem in here for most of these runs. Definitely go with a CDR gem for even more cooldown reduction. You could also switch out the Vitality for Acid Cloud damage if you prefer. Shoulder piece, Intelligence, Vitality, life percentage, and then Wall of Death damage. You could also go with area damage over the life percentage, but Wall of Death damage again, very important. You want to get Wall of Death damage on every piece that you can, which is your shoulders, chest, and mojo. Helltooth gauntlets, Intelligence, Vitality, Crit damage, Crit chance. Then we've got the Focus and Restraint rings, both of them with Intelligence, Crit damage, Crit chance, and a socket. Belt of Transcendence, again we're getting those 15 Fetish Sycophants that are going to proc Fierce Loyalty for us and do some decent single target damage. And then Intelligence, Vitality, Life Percentage, and Armor on that piece. The Jerem's Bracers, you want these to roll as close to 100% as possible to buff that Firewall even more, and you want to get Fire damage, Intelligence, Vitality, Crit chance. And then we've got the Hellfire Amulet with Intelligence, Crit damage, Crit chance, and a socket. The Intelligence could also be Fire elemental damage. As far as the legendary gems, Bane of the Powerful, an effect that you get after killing an elite or champion, and when you're moving so fast through Torment 10 rifts, after you kill that first elite or champion pack, you're going to have this buff for basically the entire duration of the rift. And you also get extra damage versus elites, champions, and bosses with the secondary effect. Bane of the Trapped. It increases damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects by a percentage, and with the 2-piece Helltooth applying Necrosis to everything that you hit, and Necrosis slows enemies, you're going to have this damage buff basically all the time. Then we've got the Boon of the Hoarder. Every time you pick up gold, you get a burst in movement speed. And you're going to be picking up gold from very far away with the Thing of the Deep pickup radius. Next we have the Kanai's Cube powers, and in the weapon slot we have the Furnace. This is a high mobility build, so we want a weapon that is high mobility but also gives us a damage increase. The Grin Reaper in the armor slot. The Mimics will be casting our Firewall and our Acid Cloud in this build most importantly. And then the Convention of Elements ring, just a huge damage increase when this rotates around to mostly fire but also poison with casting Acid Cloud and your Mimics casting it as well. As far as Paragon points go, get as much movement speed as you need and then go Intelligence and Core. Offense wise, Crit chance, Crit damage, cooldown reduction, then attack speed. Defense wise, Armor percentage, Life percentage, all resist, Life regen. And for utility, you can either go area damage or gold find first, and then life on hit, resource cost reduction. So that'll about wrap it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed the build. This will probably be my go-to spec for Torment 10 farming in Season 4. For one thing, it's very efficient. In my opinion, from what I've playtested so far on PTR, probably the most efficient, just due to how much AoE clear the build has, and the ability to just drop fireballs and then move on to other groups of mobs. And then you can check your map later to see if legendaries potentially dropped from some of those mobs that you may have left behind. On top of that, you get to just light the entire ground on fire, and it's a lot of fun to play. So anyways, guys, thanks again for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Guardian has found